Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming on this afternoon. And thank you so much for inviting myself and the rest of our team that are here as well. It's lovely to see lots of familiar faces from before in the clinic, and it's great to have a chance to talk to you about some treatments that we've got to at the moment. So where we're trying to get to anyway with this. And what I wanted to do is to try and show how treatments are developed for conditions, and in the form of a line, how long it might take. And often, when you describe a condition, you have to try and find the cause of it, and what the natural history is, how it progresses over time. Try and find, once you've got a cause, try and find a target that a medicine might work for. If you can find a medicine, then try and do some studies in cells. And if those studies in cells show the medicine might work, then usually do some studies in animals. And if that works, then you have to check it's safe and the medicine doesn't cause cancer or something like that. And then you have to do early phase studies in people to find out what the right dose is that might have an effect. And then you have to do what's called a randomized controlled trial. And that's where you give some people the medicine and some people the dummy pill, placebo, and you follow them up, and at the end of it, you have a look and see which group responded to it to see if a medicine works or not. And that's the standard process. And once you can show that, you then apply to the government to have it authorised as the treatment, and it goes into our British National Formulary, and we can prescribe it for any condition that you have. And that process is thought to take 10 or 15 years, maybe 10 years for a medicine that's already known for something else, or maybe 15 years for a new medicine. And what I wanted to do is to show you on that where we are with Orphan syndrome on that. So I've tried to draw it as a timeline to show how it works. And the start of this is 1938, which was the first report by Dr. Orphan in the Mayo Clinic. So the condition is named after a doctor who had a family of 4 children, all in one clinic in North America. And then between 1938 and 1995, lots of people described individual families in the literature. And then in 1995, from Birmingham, we did a study of the natural history, describing how the disease progresses over time, what happens. And then the next big breakthrough was 1998, which is Professor Alan Permott in Washington University, St. Louis, who found the gene that causes Orphan syndrome. That was a major, major breakthrough at that point. And then in 2005, Professor Fumi Arano's team here, Sonia Fonseca and others in Washington University, found the mechanism of the disease, or one of the mechanisms, that might be underlying it, endoplasmic reticulum stress. And then in 2012, we got money from the National Health Service to set up the multidisciplinary clinic, and some of you have been able to come to that clinic, and it gave us a chance to invite you to take part in research studies, and also try and help improve management as much as we could, as far as we could. And then in 2013 and beyond, we had drug targets found. There were 2, and the other arrow doesn't show up very well on this, unfortunately. But about 2013, 2014, in Europe, we found a drug target that seemed to work, and in America, Professor Arano found a drug target, both about the same sort of time. We both did drug screens to try and find a medicine that might work for the condition, and we both found medicines that might potentially work for it. That's right. And then last year and this year, 2015, 2016, we both applied for regulatory approval for what's called Orphan drug designation. And what that does is it means that this is a medicine that's got the potential to help in this condition, but you're not allowed to prescribe it until it's proven. And all it does is it lets us start applying for studies for those medicines to try and make them work. And then in 2016, so earlier this year and a bit of last year, Professor Arano found some markers that we could measure, and working with Washington University, we found some markers. And we're now in a situation for early 2017 where we're going to be able to start some clinical trials in North America and in Europe of some medicines to see if we can change the natural history of the disease. So that's the timeline, and I guess what it shows is really an awful lot's happened in the last 20 years, and it doesn't feel like it from your family's point of view, I guess, but when you look at it from when the disease was first described, things are speeding up. I guess that's the point. Research is speeding up, it's getting there, which is. So I hope that's a bit of hope anyway for people to show that things are happening. So that's that. So the goal is at the moment to find a cure for Orphan syndrome, to reverse the disease process, and that might be gene therapy, and that might take a while. But while we're waiting for that, can we try and use medicines we've already got that might slow the disease down or stop it at the moment? So what we're trying at the moment is medicines to slow things down while we're waiting for the cure, for the treatment that hopefully will be there eventually at one time. So we're trying to start with a fairly small aim at the moment, but better than nothing. And some of you have been coming to the multidisciplinary clinics at the Children's Hospital and at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Birmingham to see a number of different specialists at the time. So Professor Raj Gupta is here, who's here for the neurology, and Dr. Denise Williams for genetics, and Rebecca Heath and others, and I'll ask you to stand up at the end so that you can spot that they're all here. Some of you, while you've been there, have been having brain scans, and I appreciate that they take a long time and they're not that easy and uncomfortable to do. But what I want to do is to show a bit of what we've done with the results and how it's helped us for the clinical trials. So we've had that. So the first thing we've asked you to do in the clinic is to take part in a European register called EuroWAB, and it's asking your permission to include anonymised information on a European register so that we can find out as many people as we can with the condition, and people who might be interested in taking part in more research or studies in the future. And that's progressed really nicely with European partners in Spain, France, Poland, Germany, and now Italy as well, and Denmark and others. And there's about 190 people with the condition from across Europe now who are all taking part in that study. And that's really important for future trials and things to be part of that. And we're really grateful that that's been a success for doing that. And then the gene itself was identified by Professor Alan Perlman, as I said, and has actually helped us to get to this condition here. What we've tried to do in the UK is trying to find a drug target, and we've used a cell model of Wolfram in cells in the Petri dish in the laboratory, and we've looked at those cells that are surviving well and those cells that are less healthy. And we found one protein, one marker, called P21, which is important in cell cycles and cell reproduction, that if it's not present in the cells are very unhealthy, but if it's present in the cells seem to survive and do okay. And we know that there's lots of drugs that can increase the expression of that protein to try and keep cells alive, because they've been used in other conditions. So what we did was a screen of medicines that are known to increase that expression, that P21 CYP. And we tried to choose medicines that are licensed for use in adults and in for children, and medicines that we know will get to the brain and try and help the brain condition and the eye condition as well. And out of those, we found a number of medicines which have worked, or seem to have worked, in the cell, in the Petri dish in the cell. And one of those we've taken to the European Medicines Agency to ask if we can use it to go into future plans for clinical trials of medicines. And it's a medicine that's used for other conditions. It's got lots of side effects, but it's a possibility that it might work for this condition. So then, what we needed is some sort of marker that we can measure to see if it's working. Because with this condition, it changes slowly, or relatively slowly over time. And this is from our clinic, all of you who've had eye tests over the time and had a check of what's called visual acuity. And just to explain what this means, the measure of visual acuity is on this side here, and these are individual patients measured over time, young people who've come to the clinic. And if you've got a logMAR score of 0, that's like 20/20 vision, it's really, really good. And if you've got a logMAR score of about 1.5, 1.6, it means that you've got severe visual impairment. So following individual patients over time, you can see over time, some people stay the same, but some people gradually, their vision gets a bit worse. And what you can see from that is that you can draw a line through that, and you can predict pretty much the average rate of change of the vision. And because you've had those tests done and come to the clinic, and we're so grateful for that, we've been able to use that to say, we want to design a treatment, and what would be a significant benefit? And we think that would be either to stabilise the eyes, or to improve it by about 60%, 50 or 60%. I think anything less than that, probably the medicine isn't going to be that helpful. So that's allowed us to estimate the benefit size. We're trying to find a medicine that will improve the vision loss, or reduce the vision loss by 60% or better. Does that make sense? Okay, great. So that's what we're trying with that. And the other bit, I'd mentioned about the MRI scans, which some children have had at the Children's Hospital, and they have been very long, and I'm sorry about that. What we've been able to do is to work with not just Professor Fumi Arano in Washington, but also Professor Tammy Hershey as well, in studies looking at the brain and the brain stem. And her studies have shown that a particular bit of the brain seems to shrink, or slowly shrink over time, and may be responsible for some of the features that we see. And what she's drawn on a graph here is the volume of the brain stem, and each dark blue circle is a patient at Washington Children's Hospital, followed up over time. And the brain stem very slowly gets a little bit smaller over time. And these open diamonds here are people who don't have Wolfram but have got type 1 diabetes. And with those people over time, the brain stem gets a bit bigger, at least until about 30, and then it starts tailing off as well. For those of you who've had MRI scans at the Children's, those are the coloured dots on here, the red and some of the greens as well, and it just shows that slow reduction in that volume is the same in the children in Birmingham as in Washington University. And so exactly the same way, I don't know how well this comes out, but plotting individual people in Birmingham, you can see the individual plots. There's a very gradual reduction in the volume of the brain at that part over time, such that you can draw a line through it over time at the rate of progression, and we can say we want a clinical trial, a medicine that's going to stop that or slow the rate of progression by at least 50%. Okay? So those are the two, and we needed some sort of hard marker to prove that a medicine might work or not, and that's what we're looking at the moment. That's what it is. So what we did then was we put in that was informed by doing a survey of the French Wolfram Association, the Spanish one, the Snow Gable Foundation, and Wolfram Syndrome UK. And some of you may have responded to that, saying what's really important to people in terms of improving. And top of that list was vision. That seemed to be the top thing. And then other things like bladders and neurological as well. And that's why we investigated those particular things. And we put in an application last November to the UK Medical Research Council to try and do what's called an efficacy study, to try the medicine that we've got on here and see if it can slow the rate of decline of vision by 60% or better, and slow the gradual reduction in brainstem volume by 60% or better. So those are the objectives, to see if this medicine works on vision, by slowing down the reduction and stabilising it, and the volume on the MRI scan. Also to check it's safe and it's tolerated, and also to check things like quality of life. Are people not getting side effects with this medicine? Is it okay to give people? Because we don't want to give anything that's going to cause people too many side effects, is that? And we have to do a special statistical calculation, so the study has to be 80% certain that the result is correct at the end of it. So we have to recruit enough people to do that. They said they'd agree in principle in the summer, but they wanted a full research protocol. So a lot of people helped in University of Birmingham over the summer to put together a full research protocol, which is great, about 80 pages of it. And they considered it at the board in September, and I haven't heard anything. And I emailed the Medical Research Council Thursday evening to say, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to the Wolfram Syndrome conference on Saturday, and I can't stand up there without any decision about this at all. Is there any possibility you can let us know? And I got an email back yesterday afternoon at 5 o'clock to say that the Medical Research Council panel have approved a budget of £2 million to do this. Starting next year. But there's something very crucial. They won't release it until we have more patient involvement in the study design. And that's where you guys come in. What I need to do over the next 4 weeks is to invite you through Wolfram Syndrome UK to advise us on what should go in the information sheet, what should go in the consent forms, what should be the sort of medicine that we have. Is it a tablet or is it a liquid, or how big would a tablet be? How are we going to explain side effects from that? How big should the dummy group be? Can we get that as small as possible so that as many people benefit from the medicine as possible? But they're not going to release the money until we work with Wolfram Syndrome UK to do that. So this is a fantastic opportunity to work together to get this treatment to the clinic. Beyond that, it's been a very busy week. On Tuesday, we put in an application to the European Union under a scheme called the Horizon 2020 to do an international trial of the medicine that Professor Arano is developing and the medicine that we're developing, so that we can try and see the two together, i.e. one separately, the other separately, or both together, and see whether we can get even better an effect for families. And this is bringing together Europe and North America in one application, which we really hope might have a good chance of getting funded, and then speeding up the delivery of these medicines to families. And the nice thing about this condition, ever since 2009, is that an awful lot of the scientists and the clinicians are keen to work together, and that's largely because we've been pushed to that by Stephanie and Tracy and others as well, to make sure that we all combine in the same effort. So that's nice. Beyond that, there are discussions with biotech companies. We've had 2 discussions in the last couple of weeks, and I know Professor Arano is as well, trying to develop new medicines to try and stop or reverse the disease process. So I'm thinking ahead now over the next few years where we're trying to go with this. It's not just the one study, it's the next study, and we have to think about the study after that that's going to get these medicines. And we're each in discussion with companies that are keen to investigate Wolfram because of the work that Professor Arano has done in identifying the mechanism. So they feel there's a real chance of addressing that and trying to stop or reverse the process. And there's things that biotech companies can do that we as researchers can't. So it's really the way that we need to go, I think, in the future to do that. So what I'll be asking, when I see you today and through Tracy over the next days and weeks, is help from Wolfram Syndrome UK to give us some advice, and we'll need to set up a telephone conference and engage your opinions today about what a trial ought to look like. And this is the sort of thing about, can we get more people in the treatment arm than the dummy medicine arm, for instance? What sort of level of information? We'll need to prepare information sheets and ask you help to read them and tell us if they make sense or not, and what information you want in those. We don't want to make some horribly complicated sheet that nobody can understand. What sort of form of the medicine? Is a tablet okay? Do we need to find a liquid because of swallowing problems or things like that? We can't ask you to do hundreds and hundreds of investigations and all sorts of horrible things. Will you advise us about what is reasonable to ask people to have if they come to a study visit, and what's not reasonable, so that we have your best support for doing those? And that's really, really crucial for us as well. Side effects. Every medicine has a side effect, whatever we try and do, and we need to go through those with people in the focus groups and get people's opinion about that, whether they think that's acceptable or not, those sorts of side effects. The one we're looking at, for instance, you can't have it if you get pregnant, for instance. So it's really, really important that we think about those sorts of things. And then how often are we going to drag you to Birmingham or St Louis or wherever to take part in the study, knowing that families have to travel a long way and you don't want to miss time off school or work or other things. So these are the sorts of things that we need your help on time to get. And then after that, I just want to say it's absolutely fantastic. We've got a wonderful team in Birmingham that we're working with to do this. Some of them people are here. Professor Raj Gupta is here today as part of the team that's developing this as well. Fantastic to work with Professor Fumi Arano and Tamara Hershey in North America, and our other European colleagues who are here as well. And we're very lucky to have a really great team of dedicated clinical people at the hospital side, some of whom are here today as well, and I've put up. So Denise, do you just want to stand up as well, just to say, just so that everybody, Denise Williams, you know, Dr. Ben Wright in the adult clinic. Ben, do you want just to stand up as well and say, who's taken over from Professor Morrison. Raj Gupta, you know, I'm sure as well. So, Becky, who's our play therapist at the Children's Hospital, just introduce yourself. Rebecca Heath, who's our clinical psychologist, who's come along as well, and is a closet pianist, so maybe we'll get you on the keyboard. Marie McGee, who's here as well from our transition coordinator, who many of you will know. Archana, I think, is here somewhere. Archana, hi, thank you so much, very much for coming as well. Have I left anybody out from our clinic who I haven't mentioned? If I have, I'll let them off. Thank you very much. That's great.